Good morning, Dr. Aldrich. My name is Anthony Jones. This is my video presentation for Session 5 Research Methods. What I covered in my research project was answering the question, doing a deep look into how does leadership impact an organization in three different dimensions. One, telecommuters, people that have the ability to work from home and work in the office. Geographically separated units, people that don't work in a traditional office environment at all. And then three, the traditional office setup where you have employees working in an office environment. And what I was looking to see is how does leadership across those three different spectrums look? Can they be the same? How does transformational leadership look? How does transactional leadership look? And what I was looking to see is how the communication goes across all three of those different groups. Is email good? Are phone calls good? Are video conference calls good? Is social media effective? So looking to see how leadership to those three different groups using different communications, how does that impact an organization? Is it impactful for a leader to say congratulations via email to some of these people in order to bring them together? Or is it more effective for them to use a social media platform, something like Skype or Facebook Live, in order to recognize people? Does that have an effect on them? Some of the measurables that I was trying to see was how does one's leadership style, and two, how does the communication influence the employees? In this case would be recruiters. How does it affect their production? How does it affect their morale? And how does it affect their trust within the organization? The higher the trust, the faster that people are willing to produce. And so what we had is four different categories. We had a red category signifying that there may be a problem, right? That their production may not be as good. When I refer to production, I refer to production as quota, numbers, making goal, things of that nature. So you have red, you had the yellow category, which was a step above the red. You had green, which means that you're meeting mission requirements. I guess that's a better word to use, which is actually mission requirements. So if you're in the red, then you're definitely behind on your mission requirement. Mission requirement meaning goal or your production number that is given to you that you are to obtain throughout the year. So for instance, my number is 222. So are you red on that mission requirement? Were you yellow on your mission requirement? Were you green, meaning that you're on track? Or were you in the blue, meaning that you're exceeding that mission requirement? We have four different squadrons. And what I did was I took one flight out of each one of those four squadrons, and each one had a different color. So I surveyed a flight that was in the red. I surveyed a flight in the yellow, green, and in the blue. And I talked with the flight chief who was over this flight. And I also surveyed the recruiters that were a part of that flight. And what I was looking to see was what did, were there any correlations or cause and effects between a flight in the blue and a flight in the red, or flight in the green, a flight in the yellow, or a flight in the green and a flight in the blue, or one in the yellow, one in the red. I was just kind of looking at different correlations to see how people reacted. And what was interesting, my thoughts going into this was that teams in the blue would have higher morale. They would probably have, obviously their production was high, but they would probably have higher team chemistry. They would have better morale, and that overall they would be probably functioning better as a team. Where on the opposite end, with flights that were in the red, they would probably have low morale. They would probably have flight issues, probably some rifts with their management. And so, as you've seen in the research, as you've already looked at it, obviously by now, the results were something similar to what I had imagined, but there was different things that accounted for that I did not anticipate. For example, one team that I had measured in the yellow, their morale was good. Their teamwork was high. The leadership, they appreciated. The leadership appreciated the employees. They had a very, very high sense of morale and esprit de corps on their team. But when asked the reasons for why they were in the yellow and why they would not be exceeding in the blue like you would think they would, it was because of turnover. It was because of things without their control. They had somebody retirement, so they weren't adding to the team as they should. They're focused on retirement. Another person who was working on going to another assignment, so he wasn't focused on that as he should. So there was different variables that played into a fact, and we saw this. I saw this across the spectrum. As my 5 minutes goes, man, this time goes fast. I saw this across the spectrum with the different teams as well. The red team, they lost an assistant. They had a lot of different recruiters, and then their main flight chief, he was preparing for retirement. So he was 1 foot in the team and 1 foot out of the team, trying to prepare for his next phase in life. So that affected the team. So ultimately, what I concluded was that ultimately the higher team chemistry and the higher morale that a team has, then the better they're going to work. Had it not been for the turnover within this one particular flight in the yellow, they would be in the blue. However, the team that was in the red, although they liked the leadership, you could tell that there was a division that was there, and it was because of the lack of leadership engagement. So one can conclude based off this research that I have done, very simplistic, which is if you have a lack of leadership engagement, then you're going to have a lack of production. We kind of go into laissez-faire type leadership. If you're more engaged as a leader with your people, using various communications across the 3 different dimensions that I talked about earlier, geographically separated people, telecommuters, and the traditional office setup, the key to all of that is being engaged. And the communication style doesn't matter as much. It'll probably be a follow-up as I go into the to a capstone, but just being engaged is what matters, whether that's via email, whether that's via Facebook Live, whether that's via Skype, whether that's via whatever. So the key to this whole thing is when leading a team, that I've concluded, when leading a team and wanting a team to be productive, you have to be engaged. John Maxwell said, people don't care about your vision until they know how much you care about them. You have to be engaged with the people, because when people know that you care, then people will work towards your vision. It's an old adage that I said that if you treat people like employees, they'll leave at 5 o'clock. But if you treat them like team members, they'll stay until the job gets done. You can only treat people like team members if you're engaged with them. So if you want to be in the blue, if you want production to be good, if you want trust to be good, because trust is definitely a variable of how good production goes, because when trust is up, then production goes up. You have to be engaged with your people. And that is the ultimate bottom line and what I ultimately concluded in my research. Thanks again for working with me on this. I did a PowerPoint earlier. I looked at some of the outline that was there, talking about different slides and having charts and things like that. And so I was like, well, I've already put a chart in my research paper. So my thought process was, I'll just put some slides together, no more than 10, I think what it was, and then I'll do a voiceover. And it sounded like a good idea at the time when I did it. And then when I got your text, I was like, probably not a good idea. So, hey, I appreciate you being flexible. I definitely appreciate you working with me. I've probably gotten more out of this class, and I know talking with some of the other teammates, than I have a lot of other classes. And you know what I attribute that to? I attributed that to the teacher being engaged. So you are also in this experiment, sir. You know what I mean? That's funny. But anyway, I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate your time. Thanks again for working with me, and look forward to talking to you on the message board. Take care.